A Gute Woche and welcome to the daily Rambam Shiur, 3 chapters per day. Lesson 181 and 182 will be covering Hilchos Korban Pesach from chapter 6 until Hilchos Chagigah Perek Aleph. So right now we are entering to a new week where it is called and being defined as the Freiliche Parsha, the Parsha we live and we learn about Avram Avinu every day. And it's interesting to note that Avram Avinu, which is the symbol of Mesirus Nefesh, and amongst all the Ovois, he is the one who is representing, since each and every one of the Gimel Ovois of the three forefathers coincides with the three regolim biblical holidays that we are marking. So Pesach keneged Avram, Shavuos keneged Yitzchok, Sukkot keneged Yaakov. It says about Yaakov in the Torah, Ulmikneihu, also Sukkot. About Yitzchok is the idea of the shofar, which was associated in Matan Torah, and about Avram Avinu, he is representing the Pesach, since it is written about him, Umatzois ofo vayochelu, in about Avram Avinu. So it's interesting, the first time where his name is mentioned in the Torah of the Parsha of today, we are concluding the Hilchos of Korban Pesach. And since Avram Avinu was the pillar of Mesirus Nefesh, it's interesting that also Korban Pesach consists of two parts, the part of the Shechita and then the part of the Achilo. The Rabbi explains that the idea of Shechita is removing and taking out the blood. The blood represents the enthusiasm, the koch, the excitement a person has from Inyonei Olam Hazeh. So the idea of Mesirus Nefesh is to removing his excitement and his willingness to bend and to sacrifice himself for godly sake. So this is the idea of Shechita. The idea of Achilo, since by Achilo it becomes united with the person himself. So the message and the lesson regarding Mesirus Nefesh, that Mesirus Nefesh, the mode of Mesirus Nefesh, not going to be a occasional, a one-time thing, but a tnu ekvuo, similar to Achilo in Nefesh Odom, which was basically the Avodah of Avram Avinu, which coincide the Inyan Ruchni, in Ruchni Oso Inyonim, in the Aloha Begashmies. So the first chapter that the Rambam deals is regarding a situation of tumah. We must make a distinction whether the tzibur is tomei or whether the yechidim, whether individuals are tomei. So since Korban Pesach is a dover shekovua lo izman, it's something that in Torah there is the term b'moyadoi, and we know that b'moyadoi, af b'Shabbos, b'moyadoi af b'tum'o. Even if the Pesach comes on Shabbos, you still have the mitzvah to slaughter and to eat the Pesach. And even if it comes betume, but what type of tumah we're talking? If the tzibur is tumah, later on we're going to go through the details. However, if it is only an individual tumah or individuals, he is prevented from becoming a part of a Korban Pesach. However, tumois kalois, light tumah, for example, if a person touched a sheretz or a nevelo, a dead animal, as long as he went to the mikveh, though an additional step in the process of him becoming tohir is still necessary, which is called hariv shemesh, must be a sunset, and the sunset was not there yet. Nevertheless, I will slaughter anyway the Pesach on his behalf, and at evening he will be able to eat from the Korban Pesach. On the other hand, in a similar situation at Tmei Mace, a person who touched a corpse of a dead person, which he is Tomei for 7 days, and in the 7th day he received the Hazoe, the sprinkling of the water of the Pore Adumo, plus he went to the mikveh, and the only thing is missing is Ha'arev Shemesh, the sunset. He is prevented from participating in the Korban Pesach. And a person may ask, we have just said, if a person was Tomei Betumas Sheretz or Tumas Nevelo, he and all he is missing is Ha'arev Shemesh, it's fine for him to participate in the Korban Pesach. So how come a person who is at May Mace and he went through the majority of the steps and all what he is missing is Ha'arev Shemesh, how come he is not able to participate? And the answer is given in the Torah. The original story of Vayu Anoshim, Tmeim, and they came to Moshe and they asked him, Lomo Nigora. So Mipi Hashmu, according to the oral tradition, it is speaking exactly about a similar case where those people who were Tomei, they were basically at the 7th days of their purification process after going to the mikveh, and all what they were missing is the Ha'arev Shemesh, and they were still prevented from lehakriv Korban Hashem b'moyadoi, to be part of the Korban Pesach. So for that reason, Atmei Mace is different than Atmei Sheretz or Atmei Nevelo, that they are capable, but Atmei Mace is not capable. Another situation where there is a Zov or a Zovo at the 7th day of their purification process. So they going to the mikveh and they presumed Tohir unless they will see later a additional Zov or Zovo, and then retroactively they will be Tomei. So in such a case, if they are counting the 7 days, or even a Zov Oktanosh is a Shemeres Yoim Keneged Yoim, I will enable them to go to the mikveh and take part of the Korban Pesach, and as long as they were not able to display a sign of Tumo before the sprinkling of the blood of the Korban Pesach, they are fine 100%. However, if they were displaying a sign of Tumo before the sprinkling, then they have to go and do Pesach Sheni. But if it was done after the sprinkling, they will be exempt from Pesach Sheni. Similar din will be Mechusrei Kaporo. Mechusrei Kaporo is a Zov, Zovo, Nido, Yiledes, who they went through their purification process, and all they are missing is to bring the korbanos, the offerings that are linked to their duty as part of the purification process of themselves. So though they have not brought yet their korban, it's okay for them to participate in Shchitas HaPesach, and later on they will bring their korbanos, and at the evening they will be able to eat from the Korban Pesach. Subject, however, they should put in deposit their korbanos by Beis Din. The reason? Because otherwise I may suspect that they may neglect to bring their korbanos for the Mechusrei Kaporo, and then their participation in the eating of the Korban Pesach is not going to be kosher. So for that reason, though I am allowing them to be part of the Shchitas HaPesach, but it is subject for them delivering their korbanos, which is part of their purification process. Since Pesach, it is a very severe mitzvah saseh, which the consequences is koris, so it will override a rabbinical prohibition. For example, a metzoro that went to the mikveh, however, he is missing the Harev Shemesh, is called Tvul Yoim, which generally he is prohibited to enter to the area of Ezras Noshim, where the korbanos he is bringing are taking place over there. He will be able to enter at the day of his purification and to bring whatever is necessary, though that generally is forbidden rabbinically. Nevertheless, since the reason why I'm enabling him in order to participate with the Korban Pesach, that the severity is a severity of koris. However, when I'm pushing away or I'm letting a rabbinical prohibition to be overridden by a biblical mitzvah like the mitzvah of Pesach, I will make a clear distinction whether it is today is the due date for the Korban Pesach, or the due date of the Korban Pesach is not today, is in another day. In such a case, I won't push away a Isur de Rabbanon for a Isur de Iraise. Example, a Tomei that his 7th day fell on Yud Gimel Nisan. However, it happened to be on a Shabbos. In such a case, the only way he will be able to participate in the Korban Pesach tomorrow, if I will do the sprinkling on Shabbos. However, sprinkling on a Shabbos, a Hazoyo of the May Poro Adumo, it is a rabbinical prohibition. It's called Shvus. Nevertheless, though a second ago we said that a Isur rabbinical prohibition is being pushed away from a Isur mitzvah d'oraisa, nevertheless, in such a case, I won't allow him to sprinkle on Shabbos. The reason? Because why would I allow him? In order to enable him for tomorrow bring a Korban Pesach. Since today, now, presently, there is no clash between a rabbinical prohibition and a biblical prohibition, though that my observance of the rabbinical prohibition will eventually going to lead in the future a postponing a biblical mitzvah. Nevertheless, since now they are not clashing, I must honor the rabbinical prohibition. A person who was under the presumption that he is tohir, that he is pure, and they slaughtered the Pesach, and later it turns out that he was tomei at the time when the Shchitas Pesach took place. So it depends what type of tum'o we are talking about. If it was tumas hatehoim, by definition it is a tum'o that no one were able to have prior knowledge about this tum'o. In such a case, Pi Hashmoa, according to oral tradition, he will be exempt from Pesach Sheni. If it was tum'o yedua, it was a non-tum'o, so then he will be mechuyov in Pesach Sheni. So in other words, whatever he brought was considered like he did not do the mitzvah properly, and for that reason he will be mechuyev. Though that we have just mentioned that tumas hatehoim is not going to be able to cancel an actual offering that he brought already, but there is an exception to this rule. For example, if a person were in a state of tumah and he is purifying by 7 days after the tumas meis, and he goes through the hazoyah, bashlishi ubashvi, in the 3rd and the 7th day. In the 6th day, he was nitmo, became tomei, in a tumah which is called tumas hatehoim. He did not know, and he went on the 7th day on the mikveh, and the 8th day he actually brought the Korban Pesach. Though that be'etzem he is not tohir because he was nitmo betumas hatehoim, and we have just said that tumas hatehoim is not going to be able to cancel his Korban Pesach, but in such a case it will be canceling the Korban Pesach, since his exposure to tumas hatehoim took place at the 6th day of his being at Mei Meis, and Cheskas Hatomei Tomei, I will leave him in his status until 100% he cancelled his tumah. So given the fact that he was already in a state of tumah, so therefore I'm placing him and will be cancelling his Korban Pesach, and he will need to bring the Korban on Pesach Sheni. In the 2nd chapter, he deals about the qualification for the Pesach Sheni to those people who were Tomei. So the rule is that when people who are Tomei Meis will be pushed away to Pesach Sheni, only Vayiyu Anoshim, when the minority of the kohol, when the minority of the community, they were in a state of tumas meis, only in such a case they will have to do a Pesach Sheni. However, if the majority of the community were contaminated in Tmei Meis, they will slaughter the Korban Pesach and consume the flesh, the meat of the Korban Pesach in a state of tumah, including the people who are amongst them who are tohir. Also, in a case that the kohanim themselves are tomei meis, or klei shores, the utensils that they are also tmeim, will also going to be done in a state of tumah. On the other hand, if it is only mechzo al mechzo, 50-50, half of the kohol is tomei and the other half is tohir, so the half that is tohir will do it betaharo, and the half that is tomei will do it betumo, contrary to a case where the majority are tomei meis, where everybody, including the tohirim, will do it in betumo. There is situations where people will be exempt from both, from Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni, and the illustration is the following. When half of the community are tohir, the other half are tomei. However, if I will add the noshim, the females, so then the people who are tmei meis will be a minority. In such a case, these people who are tomei, they won't do the Pesach Rishon, because after all, they are a minority on Pesach Rishon, since on Pesach Rishon I must take in consideration the female, because all the females are obligated to bring Korban Pesach, and therefore if I will add them, the Tmei Meis will be a minority, and therefore when they are a minority they cannot bring Korban Pesach Rishon. On the other hand, when it comes to Pesach Sheni, there is no mandatory obligation upon female to bring a Korban. In such a case, in connection to Pesach Sheni, there is 50-50. So now, people who are 50-50, they not doing the Pesach Sheni. The Pesach Sheni is only when the Tomei are minority. This ruling finds another way to express itself in the following scenario. When the majority of the community were not able to make Pesach Rishon, the first Pesach, due to the fact that the majority of the Tmeim, they were not Tomei in Tumas Mes, they were Tomei in other Tumois, Zovin, Metziroyes, Nidois, whatever, all other Tumois. So the Tmei Meis cannot do the Pesach Rishon, since as Tmei Meis they are a minority. They cannot do a Pesach Sheni, because Pesach Sheni, only those people who were present at the time when the majority of the community were able to make Pesach Rishon. In this case, the majority of the community were not able to do Pesach Rishon, since, bottom line, most of them, they were Tomei. They were not Tomei in Tumas Mes, they were Tomei in other Tumois. So here is a scenario where legally people will be exempt from both Psochim, Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni. The way to measure and to determine the majority of the community is only considering those people who are about to enter to the Azor while they were outside before entry to the Azor. At that time, only those active participants or people who are about to participate, they are the only one who are included in the count to determine minority or majority. As we have mentioned before, a Pesach that comes when the majority of the tzibur is Tmei Mes, not only it is being slaughtered in a state of tumo, but also being consumed, being eaten only to those Tmei Mes, but not to those people who are Tomei because of other tumois, like Zovin, where the tumo comes out from their body. In the third chapter of lesson 181, the Rambam deals about the details that are necessary to eat the Pesach. The first requirement, to accompany the Korban Pesach with matzo and morir. Second requirement, that it must come al hasoiva, when a person was in a state of satiation, and to achieve this requirement, they had the Korban Chagigah, which was a Korban Shlomim, which were slaughtered. Another stipulation, that it must be roasted on fire only, cannot be roasted by barzel, by any hot metal or any hot stone, but it must come to direct contact to roasted by the fire. It is prohibited to be half roasted and to be cooked. If he ate it raw, though he did not fulfill a mitzvah sasaya positive commandments of tzli, but nevertheless he is not getting malkois, since he was not violating the loises, because the definition of no is only partially roasted, but over here it was fully raw. The time of expiry as far as eating is biblically until dawn, rabbinically half midnight. If the Bnei Chavur, the members of the group which are subscribed on the Korban Pesach, they fell asleep, they cannot eat from the Korban Pesach any longer. So be alert, be up, is a very stiff requirement, stipulation that is necessary to do the properly. Lesson 182. So part of the severities of the Korban Pesach is to make sure that the meat is not exiting outside the chaburo, as it is written in the Torah, "Bebais echod ye'ochel lo yisoitziu min habosor chutzo." And anybody who takes out from the flesh outside the chavura, outside the bais, he is violating a negative prohibition. He gets malchus, and the flesh is being prohibited in achilo, in eating, like any bsar kodshim, any meat of a holy offerings which left the jurisdiction, the territories. Even if one limb left the mechitzoso, he left the territory, he need to cut the limb until he gets to the bone, because he's not allowed to break the bone, as we're going to learn soon. And when he reaches the bone, he peels the flesh. At the time when there is two chavuros, two groups eating in one house, they must make a clear boundaries. Even a waiter who goes from one chavura to the other to serve them, he happens to be participating with eating with one of the chavuros, so he constantly must face the chavur that he is actually part of in order to demonstrate his loyalty to the chavur and not to let room to any suspicion that he may ditching his chavur and participating with a new type of chavur. There is another prohibition to feed anyone who is not Jewish, or even if he's Jewish but he happens to serve avodah zarah, or if he is uncircumcised. And here is a very interesting explanation of the Rabbi about the fact that the only positive commandments which are so severe that ignoring them is associated with a Isur Kores is only Milo, circumcision, and Korban Pesach. They happen to be the first mitzvahs asay that the Jews were introduced while they were still in Egypt, and in merit of those two mitzvahs came the redemption. The Rebbe explains, since the Jews were in a state of eroim ve'erio, naked from any mitzvahs, it was necessary to train them, to get them accustomed to mitzvahs. So for that reason, to get them accustomed to mitzvahs, the mitzvah of Milo represents a positive, a asay toiv. Then it was a necessity to remove them, to separate them from the avodah zarah. Since the sheep was basically the idol of the Egyptian, so by them, mishchu ukhu, go and separate yourself from idol worship and purchase this tole, which happens to be the avodah zarah of Mitzrayim. So by doing so, they have managed to clean themselves, to cancel themselves from any association with avodah zarah. It was an element of a bitul avodah zarah, and for that reason, which are general mitzvahs which led them the koyach for future avodah of sur meira va'asei toiv, for that reason, they happen to be the first one, and they are so severe that they are associated with kores. Very interesting connection to the halacha that when a oved avodah zarah is mevatel, so the avodah zarah is bottle, is the idea of the Mitzrim selling it to them, the idea of them even treating it disrespectfully by tying it to the beds. And in our Parsha, it says about when God Almighty was disturbing the plan of Deira Palogo, it says, Vayachdelu livnoi so'ir. And the Rogatchover explains why is it necessary to say Vayachdelu livnoi so'ir. And he explains that since we know that Avodah Zorah becomes no Avodah Zorah any longer when Oivdeho, when those people who are serving it, they are mevatlet. And they can be mevatlet by different acts of disrespect. So, since the Tower of Bovel was a form of Avodah Zorah to those people who built it, so in order to benefit the rest of the world from it, was a necessity for them, Vayachdelu livdei so'ir, to stop building, and not only in a passive way, but also in an active way. And since we just spoke about the importance of the circumcision as part of the Korban Pesach, so not only if a person himself is uncircumcised that is prohibited for him to participate in the Korban Pesach, but even if one of his sons or one of his servants are not circumcised, it prevents him to participate in the Pesach as well. In the last chapter of Hilchos Pesach, the discussion is about the prohibition of breaking the bone of Korban Pesach. However, the prohibition is limited to those bones who possess both meat and bone marrow. If it happens to be a bone that has no meat and no bone marrow, there is no problem to break this bone. Another prohibition that is associated with Korban Pesach is to make him into a noisel, a leftover. However, if a person caused the flesh to be a leftover, he is not getting malchus, since there is always a solution. Etzlav hanitok la'aseh, the Torah mentioned, bo'esh tisroifu. As we have mentioned before, that a Korban Pesach is ne'echol al soiva, must be eaten in a state of satiation, and for that reason, before the Korban Pesach, used to consume from the Chagigah. However, there was exceptions. If Pesach fell on Shabbos, so the Chagigah were not slaughtered, that was not doiche the Shabbos. In case that there is nechol betumo, as we have learned that roiv hatzibur tmei meis, if the majority of the public are tomei in tumas mes, so no Chagigah were brought, or in case that there is so many psochim, and as it is, the schedule is tight and busy, so in such a case, no Chagigah were slaughtered as well. And towards the end, it would be very appropriate to mention the explanation of the Rabbi in the difference between Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni. Pesach Rishon represents the state where the Jews were kibor ha'om. They ran away. The avodah was to escape the contaminated environment of the klippos that they were sunk in. For that reason, Pesach Rishon cannot be eaten even when there is a mashu chometz in the area. Not only a person is not allowed to benefit, but cannot even stay in the house mitzad isur bali royo bali motze. However, Pesach Sheni comes already after a person were able to mature a bit, and for that reason he will be able to tolerate chometz as well, because though that at the beginning there is a necessity just to run away kibor ha'om, but later on when a person gets further in self-refinement, he will be able to tolerate chometz as well. And as the Rambam states clearly, ma ben Pesach Rishon l'Sheni, while the first one it is prohibited to have any chometz, and it is prohibited to remove any flesh outside the chaburo, and you have halal not only by the shchite but also in the achilo, and you got to bring a chagigah. And if the majority of the kohol they happen to be tmei meis, will be brought in tmei meis. However, when it comes to Pesach Sheni, so chometz umatzo imi v'bayis, as we have mentioned, no halal is necessary while he is eating, and you are able to take the chometz chutz lechavurosoi. Doesn't need a chagigah, and it doesn't come in tumo. However, both of them, they are doiche di Shabbos. Both of them will have halal while they are being slaughtered. Both of them gotta have tzli, roasted away with matzah umurur. Both of them cannot have noiso, and both of them you cannot break the bone. And as the Torah mentioned, that there is a difference between mitzvahs shebegufoi and mitzvahs she'al gufoi. There is mitzvahs which are directly related to the state of the offering, and then mitzvahs which are associated with external condition and circumstances. The third chapter, starting a new halacha, is the Hilchos Chagigah. The same way as we have 3 regolim, 3 biblical holidays, each and every regel of those 3 have 3 korbanos, 3 offerings that each and every Jew is mechuyov, is obligated to bring. One korban it's called Re'iyo, second called Chagigah, and third Simcha. The korban Re'iyo consists of oilohis. A person is not benefiting from it, and is entirely goes leishim like every korban oilo. Chagigah and Simcha, they are korbanos of shlomim. Re'iyo and Chagigah, only men are obligated. When it comes to Simcha, which is korbanos shlomim of Simcha, also noshim, also females, are mechuyev as well. Rabbinically, there is a shiur. Biblically, there is no shiur. The shiur, the minimum amount that is necessary for korbanos re'iyo, midirabonon, when it comes to the oilas re'iyo, is mo'e kesef, the minimum fraction of a silver. When it comes to Chagigah, double the amount, but according to the wealth of the person, he should bring. If he was not able to bring the first day of the holiday, he has tashlumin, he can replace it throughout 7 days, and this includes all holidays, even Shavuos, which has only 1 day of holiday, he still has yemei tashlumin. And in fact, the custom today that we are not reciting Tachnun until Yud Beis Sivan to reflect and to commemorate those Shivas Yemei Tashlumin for those korbanos. Those korbanos, though they will be brought on Yom Tev, and I will do the smicho, because Shvus, all those of rabbinical prohibition, will be pushed away in Yom Tov. However, they're not pushing away Shabbos and Tum'o. The reason, since the term b'moyadoi, you cannot really apply to them, since it's not though they're being brought in the holiday, but there is no critical specific day that they should be brought. Since if a person was not bringing today, he can bring tomorrow and has tashlumin for 7 days. Thank you very much, and I wish to everybody a freiliche, gute, and atzloche de kevoch.